Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Oxbridge session. I'm Terry McDermott. I'm Director of Careers at Surbiton and also Head of Oxbridge. And I'm joined today by Miss Spears, who is a classics teacher and an Oxbridge mentor and assistant head of Oxbridge, and then two of our Oxbridge offer recipients, Alex, who's got a place to read philosophy at Cambridge, starting in October this year, and Dina, who's got a place to read German at Oxford, again starting in October of this year. Before we go to the Q&A with Miss Spears and the students, I'm just going to give a very short introduction. I'm not going to use a PowerPoint. I mean, suffice to say, I don't want to focus on stats too much because I think our students who are on the Oxbridge programme in the sixth form get a lot out of it beyond an Oxbridge offer. But I will, having said that, start with something about our stats in recent years. We average about 8 Oxbridge offers. That's approaching 10% of year 13s. And in recent years, we've seen 11 offers in 2018, 9 offers in 2019, and 8 offers in 2021. And that was on a backdrop of lower numbers, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago for us. We used to get about 3 offers. So things have improved significantly for us in this time when it comes to Oxbridge. I mean, that's true of many of our university outcomes, but particularly Oxbridge. And that's despite the fact most independent schools have seen a significant decline in their Oxbridge offers over that time. And I think probably the reason for that is we've adopted a very inclusive approach towards Oxbridge. We have an attitude of give it a go. If you look like a suitable candidate, why not have a go? Because ultimately, it's often going through the interview process and everything that leads up to that will tell you whether you're suited to it or not. We also make a really big effort in subject guidance, helping students understand where they're a stronger applicant for Oxford v Cambridge, and also often how to choose between different subjects within a particular family. So for example, engineering or maybe physical natural sciences or things in a similar area. What are you more suited to? And then there is the Oxbridge mentoring programme, which Miss Spears I'll be asking a little bit more about in due course. And we also put a lot of emphasis into some sort of the nitty gritty of it, things like test prep, interview prep, teachers' references, personal statements, that kind of thing. I think those things taken together probably explain why we've been very successful in recent years. Okay, if I can ask Miss Spears and Dean and Alex to unmute themselves now, and hopefully that won't create too much feedback and we'll deal with it if it does. So I was just going to start with a few questions for Miss Spears first. Can you just possibly, Miss Spears, describe what you do as an Oxbridge mentor?
Yeah, so I typically meet with my Oxbridge mentees about once a week, maybe bi-weekly. It depends on the subject I'm mentoring for. We normally have mentoring sessions between 1 or 4 students, depending on the subject which we're mentoring for. Definitely at the beginning, the mentoring sessions, I'd say, are really broad. So it's an opportunity to really explore the subject that you're interested in applying for. So I think taking it kind of beyond your curriculum that you study in your subject lessons. So kind of thinking about maybe different areas or areas of kind of contention, thinking about different scholars, debating issues, and making sure that you read kind of different texts, and again, just broadening your general experience and understanding of the subjects that you're interested in. As we move kind of further through year 12 and into year 13, we do a lot more kind of skills-based mentoring sessions. So thinking about interview skills and skills like debating kind of complex issues and putting forward your view. And definitely for certain subjects, it's things like preparing for admissions tests as we get kind of further into the kind of application time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and actually Miss Spears has been in charge of putting together our practice admissions test this year. So we've already done 2 sets of practice admissions tests for Oxbridge, and they're tests that they will do in the autumn, that the students will do in the autumn term of year 13, and are very important. So we do put a lot of emphasis on practicing for those. Ms. Liz, maybe you could mention other things that are offered on the Oxbridge programme beyond the mentoring.
Sure. So all students have the opportunity to meet with Mr. McDermott for kind of one-to-one sessions which talk about the subjects you're considering. So kind of what Mr. McDermott was saying before. So looking at the subjects you're applying for, which colleges might be best suited, whether it's Oxford or Cambridge, and so on. We also have aim higher sessions. So these are sessions we hold for about 2 or 3 a term from Easter term in year 12, where we look at certain skills like critical thinking, or again reading an article and debating the issues that come within the article. So again, it's kind of taking those skills kind of up a step as we move towards year 13. What else do we have? We have preparing for pre-admission tests, again, like Mr. McDermott said. So again, looking at those skills. We often have written work sessions. So as part of your Oxbridge application, you have to often provide written work. So examples of essays that you've written as part of your subject lessons. So we have sessions which look at the written work you're submitting to make sure it's of the quality that you want to put forward. And again, as we move into year 13, looking at personal statements.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so when we go into year 13, for the teachers, it then becomes about teacher references and overseeing the personal statements, and also preparing for those interviews, which tend to be December of year 13. The last couple of years they've been online, which has been an interesting innovation, and they're planning to do the same this year. So it might be that they, even post the pandemic, this is something they decide is more logistically appropriate for Oxford and Cambridge. Okay, and Ms. Spears, obviously, you know, an Oxbridge offer is a great thing, but I think the students get a lot out of the Oxbridge programme, regardless of how it, whether they get an offer or not. What do you think students get out of the programme?
I think I agree. I think you get a lot out of it. So I think in terms of the skills that you develop, so we really work hard in the mentoring sessions to make sure that it's not just entirely focused on getting an Oxbridge offer. It's kind of just broadening skills that you'll need for later in life. So things like interview skills, debating complex issues, coming across a difficult problem and kind of problem solving it with someone else. So I think those skills that you develop are really important just for later on in life as you get to university and then further on to kind of job interviews and so on. Yeah. And I think just more importantly, it's a really good opportunity to explore the subjects that you really enjoy. So it's probably one of the first opportunities that you, or one of the key opportunities you get to really explore a subject that you love. So again, kind of reading more, thinking about different issues, having your own opinion. I think that's really important as part of the Oxbridge programme. So we give the opportunity to, you know, say what you think and kind of really hone in on that. So I think there's a lot to get out of it.
Do you want to say briefly, actually, mentioning exploring different subjects and really getting passionate about different subjects, the fact that you mentor for quite a wide range of subjects, do you want to say something about that, the different subjects you mentor for?
Yeah, so I mentor for, so my subject is classics. Kind of that's what I studied at university. I teach Latin and classical civilization and Greek. But so that's my kind of core subject, but I also mentor for education as well. So that is a course which is held at Cambridge, and it's kind of covers a span of subjects. There's 3 different strands, one focused on politics and international development, one focused on psychology, and one focused on kind of language and English and the arts. So again, it's a subject which people may not necessarily have thought of before, but again, it's an opportunity to, I think, look at subjects that aren't necessarily taught at school and think about interesting topics which are involved with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing about an ancillary benefit of the Oxbridge programme, that you get to engage with some subjects you may not have thought about. And if you didn't have a mentor there to give you a little bit of a shimmy, you might rule them out without having really delved into them. Wonderful, thank you. If we turn to the students now, have you got any comments about what Ms. Spears has said, or any observations?
No, yeah, I remember going into one of Mrs. Spears's sessions just on critical thinking, and she wasn't my mentor, but I felt like I left that room feeling more confident in my critical thinking, in what I want to challenge, in forming my own opinions. And that was the same with all my other friends. We were doing different subjects, but we came together to do these collective critical thinking workshops. And I feel like in life, it just generally has helped me to, combat an argument or like formulate my own based on what I've been given. And it's really helpful for interview sessions. So I definitely love doing that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I would say that with regards to like kind of discovering new subjects in the application process, that definitely was the case for me. And when I first like started looking at universities, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to study yet. I think I was like focused on English, but I kind of was a bit undecided. And Mr. McDermott suggested one of the education degrees, which I think was English education, drama and the arts. And I went to a taster session for that, which is like a whole day where you like, I don't know if they're doing them at the moment because of COVID. But it's like a day where, you go into the university, they have like taster lectures and stuff. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And I think, like doing a lot of research into just other subjects that I could have studied kind of like opened the door for me to end up like choosing something that I think now that I really, really do want to study, that I think I'd be, I'm happier now doing that than I would have been if I'd like stuck with English in the first place and didn't have like that kind of space to explore.
Great.
So I think that's been very good.
Thank you, Alex. Dina, can you sort of talk about your journey to German at Oxford? How you came to that decision and over the course of a couple of years in sixth form?
Yeah, I think my journey started really early. I think, with Mr. McDermott's taster nights like these, but in person, I was a bit unsure whether to go for it or not to go for it, just because I was unsure if I was the right person to do so. But, after I did try, and I had these one-on-ones with Mr. McDermott, I felt like Surbiton was really helpful in that regard. I, at first, was looking at PPE, I believe, with Mr. McDermott. It was between PPE or modern languages. And then there were a lot of things that helped me decide, actually. Mr. McDermott had me doing these entrance exams, and he like kind of grilled me on which subjects I'd be happy to talk about. And there was just a lot of support nudging me towards, German in the end. And I just know now that this is what I'm really passionate about. It's what I can go on talking about for hours. And in terms of Oxford and Cambridge, I just feel like Oxford was the better place for me, just because Cambridge want you to do like two different subjects, two different languages in first year. And for me, I feel like German really is where I want to go. And this is just what I think Surbiton does really well, is help you like open and figure out yourself what you want to do. Just like Alex, like you might end up doing something that you didn't think you would at the very beginning. So yeah.
Great, wonderful. Could Dina or Alex, maybe you talk a little bit about some things you did in your mentoring sessions? Obviously, Dina, you had Miss Daniels a lot, and Alex, you had Miss Gore a lot. Can you just talk about some specific things you did and the sort of how that worked?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. With philosophy, I think it's because it's quite a varied subject, it would be like quite varied sessions. So like one session you'd be talking about like a kind of logic puzzle, and the next you might be discussing a more social issue. And I found that was really interesting. And I think I really like towards the end of it sort of learned to just expect anything from the interview almost, and just always like kind of be ready to do it. But I think as well as that, it really I think it helped me generally to have kind of a better like critical thinking approach to things, like just constantly talking through stuff, explaining my reasoning behind things, like reading articles as well, and like kind of having to I don't know, kind of on the spot comprehend them and have an opinion about them. I thought that was really, really helpful just in general.
Fab. And Dina?
Yeah, and for me, I did a lot of sessions looking at unseen articles or unseen poetry, and that was really helpful because a lot of my interview process was getting an unseen piece and seeing what I wanted to say about it and how my brain works. So that was really helpful. But I know for my friends doing medicine, they had mass puzzles to solve, or brain quizzes. And I have a friend doing economics. She did graphical analyzation. So I think it's really targeted, these mentoring sessions, to what your teachers' experiences of what will come up, and just helping you to create your own critical thinking skills and help you be prepared for what they throw you. So it's really, really helpful, and I definitely enjoy having that extra help every week, or maybe twice a week. But it doesn't feel like work, because you feel like you're learning. So for me, because German is a constant progression of grammar and vocabulary, and every hour spent working on that actually helped me for my end of year exams. So I found that I actually did way better in my end of year exams, just because I was doing so many grammar work, and I was doing so much literacy and all those different combinations that actually helped me do really well. So I'm really grateful for Miss Daniels and all those sessions. Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. And I'm going to pick up on something Dina said there, because we've got 2 humanities students here, but we generally have quite a broad range of subjects that students successfully secure places in. So this year, for example, one student got an offer for engineering, another one for medicine, another one for PPE, which is politics, philosophy and economics. There was German, which is obviously Dina, philosophy for Alex. We had art, our first ever fine art student get an offer. There was a classics offer, and there was also one for education policy and international development. So we had a wide range of sciences and arts, humanities, and even the creative arts in that mix, which I think reflects the sort of the all-round strength at Surbiton. So yeah, one thing I think some of the students sometimes worry about is the amount of work in the Oxbridge programme in the 6th form. Alex and Dina, could you say something about that? Maybe Dina first.
Yeah, so like I said, it is an extra bit of learning, and an extra bit of article researching and things like that. But I actually think that it has helped my passion for German grow. It's helped me improve in my learning and in my language skills. And even if there's like that whole myth or stereotype in the Oxbridge program, it's not actually taking away from your other experiences. So I do a variety of different clubs every day. I do mentoring as well. I'm an ambassador, MUN, and I have friends doing choir whilst doing the program. I have friends, doing their music lessons, piano, flute, and I have friends doing sport like rowing whilst doing the program. So I don't think it really takes away from any free time. I just think it really helps and encourages you to start being a university student, start doing these things early, so that you have that running head start from when you start in October. So I think don't stress out about this additional work, because it's going to help you in the long run, and you're going to have fun doing it alongside other things.
Lovely. And Alex?
Yeah, I'd say the same exact sentiment. I would also say that I think probably the time when I felt like I was under the most strain with it was like submitting personal statements. Like just when you get back to school in like year 13, because obviously the Oxbridge send-off date is earlier than the typical UCAS send-off date. You kind of feel like, oh, I really need to just get this done. But other than that, you do have like weekly mentoring sessions, but they almost don't feel like work, because you are just sort of you're like learning a new thing. They're really more fun than they sound. Like it's not like a very punitive, do this interview right now. It's really like a discussion with you and the teacher, and I always found that quite nice. So yeah, I don't think that I think even if you manage your time maybe better than I did with the personal statements, it probably wouldn't even be that stressful.
Yeah, I mean the one thing about that, there is a tight turnaround after the year 12 summer holiday into year 13, but the flip side of that is that you get your application off really early for Oxbridge, so you then can concentrate on your studies and your life, whereas for other students who don't have the earlier deadline, sometimes that can drag on a little bit. So that's a tip, regardless if you go for Oxbridge, try to get your personal statement done relatively early in the autumn term, and then you don't have to worry about your UCAS application after that. Okay, Miss Stockdale, are there any questions?
Hi, good evening. Just checking you can hear me.
Yep.
Yes, just a couple of questions for you to start with, just regarding the programme itself. How competitive is it to get onto the Oxbridge programme, and how are you accepted onto the Oxbridge mentoring programme?
So very, very good questions. What will happen is in about November of year 12, I do an Oxbridge evening presentation, and everyone in the year is invited to attend. I give some guidelines on, what an Oxbridge candidate on paper looks like, but I do encourage people to attend because sometimes that broad rule of thumb is not always appropriate for every student. And they're then everyone's invited to apply. Anyone who wants to apply can apply. I see everyone who applies. There are some students where I may say, based on your GCSEs, for example, I don't think you'd be a viable candidate for this cycle, but if you were to focus on your A levels and do really well, you may be a really good post-qualification applicant. So it is a very inclusive approach, but we have to balance that against realism. But if there is a punting chance of an offer, then you'll be welcomed onto the programme. If there isn't, we may discuss that and discuss what you could do. Often it is a post-qualification application in order to make yourself a realistic Oxbridge applicant. But I should say that there's a lot of support. There are 3 people in the careers team, Mr. Owen, the heads of years, and the tutors. There is an awful lot of support across the board, regardless of whether you're going for Oxbridge or one of the specialist pathways like medicine. Things like Oxbridge and medicine do require quite a lot of extensive specialist support, but across the piece, regardless of where you're applying, there's a lot of support on offer.
Great, thank you. And a question for Alex and Dina. What do you think has been one of the best aspects of the programme for you both?
I think just how on top of it the entire program was. Like, I feel like if it wasn't for the weekly mentoring sessions, if it wasn't for the sessions with Miss Spears, or like the nudges to get your personal statement ideas down as early as we did, I wouldn't have had that running start by the time I was at my interviews in October. And I just feel like Surbiton has really provided a lot of support, regardless of what stage I'm at. If I am feeling like I can't really do a session because I have other exams coming up, my mentor would suggest a different date. It's all very flexible. They know that we have other stuff going on as well. So it's really a very very welcoming and friendly environment because they all want you to succeed. So I think that's really great about it.
I definitely agree. I think that like just the structured approach has just been really helpful, especially if maybe you've got other stuff going on. It can be easy to just like let things fall by the wayside. I remember with sending off my like additional personal statement, like I left it quite to the last minute. I had Mr. McDermott on my like landline phone at home asking me if I'd sent it in, and I was like, yeah, they're just very on top of it, and I've really enjoyed that. And I've also it's just been a really pleasant experience for me just all around. Like I've never really been like, oh, I can't believe I need to do all my Oxbridge prep work. Like it's been genuinely really fun.
Great, thank you. And just a quick question back to Mr. McDermott. Could you just explain what you meant by post-qualification? Mr. McDermott, I don't think we can hear you. Mr. McDermott, we still can't hear you.
Sarah, we need to cut it short. There's a technical issue.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We've got some technical issues with the questions. What we will do is ensure that Mr. McDermott answers the questions for us, and we will come back to you with the answers. I'm sorry for that. We will try and answer them in the Q&A tomorrow evening. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.